All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hook the Line. Today, we're talking conference championships. We have made it to the end of the season, right before the playoffs. Here we go, big time. Who's walking away with the conference chips? We've got the Power Four conferences. We're going to be predicting them. We're going to be giving our score predictions. We're going to be talking through them real quick right here. We've got games at 12 p.m. with the Big 12. We've got 4 p.m. with the SEC, 8 p.m. with the Big Ten, and then luckily also 8 p.m. so I don't have to watch it with the ACC. Doomsday scenario possibly incoming there. But there's going to be a lot of conversations about the college football playoff after
Oh
this.
yeah,
I'm really excited. I think we got some great matchups here. Definitely got the matchups that I think I wanted. Maybe some of the matchups you also wanted. Should be
definitely, definitely. Yeah, all things considered, we knew it was going to be Texas Tech, BYU, which we'll get into. We knew it was pretty much going to be Ohio State and Indiana, and the other two. Like, I'm glad it's Georgia, Bama, just because feels like it's every year with these two, even though Texas was winning last year. But glad we get to see that rematch. That's a good one. And then Duke and Virginia. Wow, I mean,
seven and
I'm
five, baby. 7 and
not trying not my hardest to not beat a dead horse, but the goddamn ACC, they somehow did it and created possibly the worst scenario in the sport. And that's another rematch, Duke versus UVA, which we'll talk about. But what a Saturday! So let's get into it. Let's talk ball. Let's talk who's coming out. Well, what does it do for the sport?
Yeah, first things first, I'm just gonna ask you this question quick. Thoughts on college game day picking SEC chip over the Big Ten chip when Big Ten chip is number one and two in the country? I know people have their thoughts on that. Just want to hear your thoughts on
Yeah,
that.
it's simple. It's business, and it's really all about ESPN and Disney favoring the SEC, just because um, Fox likes it's all just a big marketing media just divide in these two. They know the SEC and the Big Ten are the two best, and they're both trying to get one and the other, right? So they're just they know they have the better morning show, which they do. Everyone can agree to that, so they're going to put it towards their game
Mm.
if that makes sense. So McAfee's gonna do the big, give me the dogs, like that crap
Yeah.
at the SEC championship, opposed to in Indianapolis where Big Noon will do Mark Ingram, Urban Meyer, Dave Portnoy, and it's just simple ESPN being ESPN and
Yeah.
favoring. But
I mean, fair enough. But anyways, just want to get thoughts on that because I know it's been going around. I will be at this SC championship game though, by the way, so excited to see
wow,
what game day looks like. It should be fun. I will be wearing an Auburn jersey, so you know what? Q Georgia, Q Alabama, and I hope you both lose. But everybody knows who I'm really rooting for in that one. So let's get into it. We'll start 12 p.m. First game of the slate. Rematch of earlier in the season. Didn't go as planned for the Storm and Mormons. Unfortunately, it was a little bit of a beatdown. Hopefully, it's going to be closer. I do think it's going to be closer this time, just being a championship game. But you got a really good Texas Tech team facing off against the BYU team, who a lot of people think deserves a little bit more respect. I think you included. You've stated that before. So maybe they can win their way in. For BYU, it's like, hey, you win and you're in. You don't have to
yeah,
concern about ifs, ands, or buts. You can get in right now by beating Texas Tech. So spread is 12 and a half. I think over under is right around 50. So I want to hear your thoughts.
yeah. Yeah, you mentioned me being a pretty big BYU supporter in terms of their playoff aspirations. Still stand on it. I think that they deserve to be in it, at least right now. But that's not the way it is. And usually somebody gets snubbed every year. So I'm not going to be sitting here and whining about it anymore. That's in the past. We're on to the future. So this is one of three rematches, which is really interesting because now it's all about adjustments. Like who is going to make the better adjustments in the game? Can it be enough to rewrite history and come back and win after a tough game in Lubbock first time around? But yeah, it was an interesting game first of all because it was a lot of defense. There was a lot of 3 points. A couple turnovers. They had a muff punt. BYU had a muff punt early in the game. Bear threw a pick to J Rod and fumble late in the game. But Texas Tech has obviously their elite defense, but their offense actually has started to click a little bit. And if I'm UIU, that really makes me nervous because if they're clicking on both sides of the ball, you really got a tough chance at beating them. Morton has been way better getting the ball out of his hands on early downs, which is key to the success. They really like to take their one-on-ones on the outside with their receivers. They've done it all year, but it consistently works. I thought it was something when we talked about Utah, that original game. I didn't think it would last for longevity purposes, and I just think it's a tough thing to live on, but they do it, and they got really good receivers. And so if they're going to spread you out, it's hard to pick against the run or the pass. If they can beat you both ways, it's really tough. But for BYU, they got to stay out of third down. They kind of lived in third down in the first matchup, and it really hurt them, especially in that first half. When you let those edge rushers get, obvious pass situations, it's a nightmare. So I think that BYU is actually going to come out and try to play a really aggressive on first and second down and try to get ahead of the sticks, right? So that this pass rush, you can at least limit it because, like I said, one of the best defenses in the country. You can't let them play to their strengths. And so I'm curious to see how BYU attacks them because I think that they can attack them through the air a little bit. But it's got to be a lot of, moving the pocket, getting chunk plays on first and second down. That way you're not playing in third down and, maybe a fourth down. So good start to the day. I think ultimately, I don't think this goes in BYU's favor. I just really think it's a tall task. I think the spread resembles that. And I mean, if you follow the channel, how my thoughts on Texas Tech and where they stand on a national stage. So yeah, I think that the Red Raiders are going to win. I think this is their first Big 12 championship, if I'm
Really?
not wrong. I'm double check me on that, but I thought I read that. But I do have them winning. I do have them getting a bye, and I have them winning by a comfortable margin. And I touched on it earlier. I think this is a good game for their offense. I think they put up 34 points, and I think they allow 17 points. So I think both offenses play it pretty well. I think BYU's going to be able to, reverse some of their film from the first game, maybe get to them a little early, put a couple drives together, maybe a special teams touchdown here and there. So regardless, Texas Tech, Big 12 champs, they cover. Oh, I think that's an over two from me. So a little bit different from the first matchup, but should be a good quality game to watch to start the day.
Yeah, and you are right on that, by the way. I just double checked that. This is their first Big 12 championship game, which I did not know that. So they're gonna show out. I mean, they're gonna be
Yeah,
ready to
exactly.
go. That that's gonna mean a lot to the fan base, to everybody. But yeah, I don't think BYU is gonna go down without a fight. I think we saw that after they got their ass whooped by Texas Tech. I think it would have been very easy to lay down and probably drop at least one other game, or at least make it close, and get a scare in there. But all they did was turn around and just beat everybody to death. I mean, like, I think LJ Martin is their running back's name. I really like that kid. Also, like, if you watch him run, he fights for yards. He's a tough kid to bring down. He always falls forward. He does everything right that you want as a running back. And I in that Cincy game, which I picked Cincinnati to win, like a fool I was on their senior night, and he ran for 222 yards and then caught another 44. So they've really turned around and leaned on him. Whereas in that Texas Tech game, he ran for 35 yards on 10 attempts, averaged like 3 yards per game. If they can get him rolling, he's the kind of bruising back that can maybe not win you a game. I think it's going to be really hard for me to pick BYU to win this game, but to just continue to give you a fighting chance. I think it's just a bad matchup for BYU because their strength is in that running game, whether it's Bear
Yeah.
or LJ Martin. And then Texas Tech's strength is obviously that D line and that linebacking core. So it's like you really wish it was anybody else. Maybe not anybody else. You got Ohio State and like Georgia in there, so maybe not. But this is just a bad matchup for them, I think. I do think they keep it closer this time around than the last time. But that Texas Tech defense, man, they produce turnovers whether you are focused in on not giving them up or not. So Jacob Rodriguez, possibly a Heisman finalist if, he creates something crazy in this game and something crazy in the playoffs. I think it would be sick, to see him get in there. Not sure they'll let him, but I think it's pretty cool. So I've got Texas Tech pulling this one out. I do have BYU covering the number. I have it 28-18. So still a comfortable win for Texas Tech, but I think BYU comes out with a little bit more fight. I think it's going to be impossible to just get rolled over again like that against the same team. But they may cover. Who knows? I just think in the end, the overall picture is Texas Tech wins, and it's going to depend. BYU probably gets snubbed out of the playoffs, and it's probably gonna suck for BYU. And I really like their head coach. I heard him speak a couple days ago after he signed that contract extension. So I'm rooting for him. I hope they make this game close, but that Texas Tech team is for real. They're genuinely a force. So I've got them winning 28-18.
I like that. And it's interesting because, LJ is a good back. You touched on it, but if you go back and look at the Texas Tech game, he had 35 yards.
Yeah.
So, you might need to find another way if you want to stay in this. So I'm curious how they do that. They do have a couple good white boy receivers, Chase Roberts, Parker Kingston. Um, Probably going to see them stretch the field horizontally. Yeah, this is their last dying chance. I'm really rooting for the Cougars, like I said, I've been on their wagon for a little bit, so should be an interesting one.
Yeah, so yeah, they've done everything except beat this team. They've done everything right. So we'll see if they can get over the hump. And if we get into the conversation, like if BYU manages to somehow win this game, like where does Texas Tech fall in that picture? They both probably get in. That really shakes everything up. So I think a lot of people are expecting Texas Tech to win this game, which sometimes crazy things happens. We've seen a lot of crazy things in college football. Obviously, some teams can just come out and play their best game ever. So we never know until it happens.
Right.
Uh, with that, we both got Texas Tech, so similar pages there. We'll move into probably one of, you can argue obviously Indiana, Ohio State, but in terms of meaningful games and what this is going to do for the playoff picture, I know there's some people that argue maybe, if Bama loses this, they're out. Some people that argue it doesn't matter. I think I lean on the side of the latter that you shouldn't be punished too much, but it's interesting that conversation there. But you've got Georgia playing Bama again, always a thriller in this game, was a thriller earlier in the year. Every time they match up, surprisingly, not really what was expected to end up in the championship game, but these two teams on a collision course again will meet in Mercedes-Benz again, and spread is 2.5. It's projected to be very close. Probably will be very close. What do you like?
Yeah, man. Another rematch, which I feel like is really interesting because you do have a basis to play off of, maybe try some new things that you saw from the first time, but it was a while ago. So these are two, different teams from when they originally played. And to whose strength that I think that plays to, and I don't know if this is a huge surprise to many, but that's definitely the Dogs. And they really have somehow just not somehow because I feel like they do it every year, but they get better along the course of the season. I think you and I have talked about it, but this is a must win for Bama. I think Georgia's in regardless, but yeah, we'll see how it plays for Bama. But these are two teams that played, I would say, pretty competitive games last week. Bama, Auburn's not as big of an opponent as Georgia Tech in terms of the ranking system, but still a road rivalry game, right? So they both played in a road rivalry game end of the year. Like both teams that they were playing wanted to take them down, make a statement. So I mean, watching those two games back, it told me a lot, right? Georgia was really run heavy against Georgia Tech. You probably would have liked to have seen them put up a little bit more points, right? But you got to do what you got to do to win the game. They were using Nate Frazier like today. That was his last game. Like zone schemes, gap schemes, like just power football. Obviously, that was the key to success in their game. And the defense is really coming around for me. I mean,
Mhm.
to allow what was it 9 points from Georgia Tech? That's impressive to me because that's a pretty good offense, right? That was the story of Georgia Tech was their offense was pretty good. Haynes King was really good. Like they're starting to pressure the quarterback a little bit, which I think is the scariest part for other teams looking to prepare for Georgia. And really just they play a clean football game, right? And I think they had what two real offensive penalties against Tech, which I
Mhm.
mean, if you want to beat Georgia, you can't beat yourself. And if there's one team that's struggled to do that a little bit recently, it's the Crimson Tide. Like we've talked about the Oklahoma game. 3 turnovers, definitely a way to beat yourself. Unfortunately, Auburn did a little bit of that last week. We don't need to touch on it real too bad, but Auburn had an insanely bad luck interception, which is on nobody but maybe the running back. But even that, like, that should have been an incompletion. They fumbled the ball at the end of the game. But, I think Alabama's due for some negative regression. I don't know what this game does for them in terms of CFP's landscape because I feel like you can't dock a team for losing in the conference championship. But some people say 3 losses is 3 losses. I don't know. But all that being said, I got the dogs. Even though I was on the Crimson Tide way back in the day when this podcast first started, but really weird game. A couple games from Bama. Like Ryan Williams didn't have a catch against Auburn.
I don't even
Like,
think I got a target. It was like,
like what? How do you not give him a target? Your best player. I don't understand how that's. I mean, how that's possible. And now you got to go play. Probably what looks like the best team in the SEC at the moment. And now they want to beat you real bad because they want their lick back. You were their only loss, and so I think I got to go with Kirby. I usually do late in the year, but
mhm.
hopefully it doesn't bite me in the butt. I do think that this is a more so defensive matchup. Like I said, dogs have been getting pressure on the quarterback. I think that's the better case. Um, Ty needs to play a really clean game.
Mhm.
I think, you know, they need to keep the ball out of harm's way and make the most out of every possession. Not, you know, no turnover on downs, no holding penalties. Like they got to play clean. So, given their track record, I'm not going to go in their favor. I'll say the dogs win, and I say they win 24-20. It's a close game, right? I think Georgia's shown that they're gonna, you know, do whatever it takes to win. They don't need to blow you out, but they want to do what they can do to win. And what they're going to do, in my opinion, and they're going to be like Texas Tech, holding a bye next week, and we'll see if Bama is playing next weekend. So maybe they'll shut me up and get the bye, but it should be interesting. Not
Yeah,
the bye, but the automatic bid. Sorry. Go
oh,
ahead.
yeah, you're right. I mean, like, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the same way. Like, I don't think you can punish a team for making this conference championship. I also think the committee kind of stood on their heels last year and just kind of put their foot in the ground and made that clear when they let SMU stay after losing to Clemson as a really low seed already. So
Yeah.
I think for all the people hoping that Bama is not going to make it, Bama would probably have to lose this game by double digits in a comfortable win for Georgia for that to happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that like I think Bama's guaranteed to be in pretty much because I don't see that game going double digits, but obviously you never know. The committee could do something crazy, but yeah, this to me is much more of like what is Georgia's problem with Bama and like why can't they beat them? Because it feels like every time I pick Georgia, it just doesn't work out in this game. I picked Georgia earlier in the year. I think I had like we weren't doing this podcast last year, but I in my own was like Georgia's going to win last year, and they just seem to continue to lose to Alabama. And you want to pick on the right side of that. You want to say, this is the year, this is the time they're going to beat Alabama. Um, but it's tough to do when time and time again it feels like they might have the better team, better roster, better record. They've been playing better, all the stuff like that. It's tough to do, but yeah, I think what you said is very true. Georgia's been getting very, very, very good these last couple weeks, including their defense. They've been getting positive results out of their defense. Um, and Bama, on the other hand, I don't put a lot of stock into the Iron Bowl just because of how much of a rivalry that is. So I think a lot of people look at it and are like, Bama struggled against a 5-7 Auburn team. No, Bama won the Iron Bowl. That's how I look at it. It's like they won the rivalry game. I don't count the numbers and look at that. They managed to walk out of Jordan Hare at night with a win. That is a win. So all that considered, I do think these teams are both playing good football. I think Bama had some guys really step up. Isaiah Horton, obviously, in that Auburn game was one of those main factors. A big thing to look out for, though, their running back. I do not know if he's going to play, Jam Miller. And if you don't have a running game against Georgia, I mean, we said it against Auburn. It's like if you don't have a running game against Auburn, it gets difficult. Well, now multiply that by 20 because you're playing against Georgia. And if you don't have a running game and you're one dimensional against Georgia, Kirby Smart is probably looking at that and licking his chops. So that's a really tough way to live. So it's difficult for me what side of this I want to pick on. I think I am going to stick with the dogs, considering that I'm going to be at the game. I'm going to pick Georgia. I'm going to pick them to win 28-27 in a very, very close game, probably with a game-winning field goal. But overall, I'm just excited for this game. I think it'll deliver no matter what. And it's kind of cool to see a rivalry being built in front of our eyes. Like the last 20 years, it hasn't been a big rivalry, and these last like 5 to 10 years, because Georgia's really picked it up and because Bama is so dominant, this game has become a huge rivalry game, and it's cool to see them play again in the SEC championship.
Yeah, so weird. And interesting point you made about Alabama in the whole conference playoff or the college football playoff thing because it's so weird. And the committee came out and said that like teams that are idle can still move up and down, which I thought was so weird
That was
because
I didn't see they said that.
yeah, so some guy was like talking with Reese Davis on like the reveal show and was like teams that are idle can still move up and down. I can send you the clip, but
Yeah.
that was just weird to me just because how is that possible? But really interesting game for the playoff picture because Bama's fighting for a spot. They're right on the edge, so
Yeah, no, I mean
should,
it should be an absolute thriller down there in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So it's going to be packed out, a close stadium to both of these schools. Obviously, Georgia probably gets a little bit of a lean, but Bama's going to travel. So it should be a lot of fun to watch that sitting on its own at 4 p.m. So nothing else needs to contribute or compete with that, I guess I'll say. And then we move into one versus two. One versus two, always going to be a headline for as long as we live in college football. And the question this year, everyone's been asking, who actually can beat Ohio State? Because we've seen every other team have flaws, get beat, make mistakes. There's really only one team, like even Indiana in the Penn State game, Oregon game, like they have ways that you see that you can beat them. Who is going to be the one to really open up Ohio State and show everybody? Because this may not be a game about Indiana winning. It may be a game about showing the rest of the college football world that there is a way to beat these guys. So whether they win it or not, who knows? Spread is sitting at 4.5, but it's going to be Indiana versus Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. Who do you like?
yeah. So obviously the storyline heading into this game not only is 1v2, but it's the two Heisman quarterbacks that are in the race. And obviously, this is going to have a big say on who probably wins it. Um, and to be honest with you, I don't know. I think this game is going to be tough for them to make this decision because I think this is more about the defensive side of the ball for both these teams. These are the two biggest tests that both these teams will get on both sides of the ball, but more defensively because Ohio State defense has been the talk of the town ever since day one, even from me, from ESPN, from everybody, and so I think this is going to be interesting because people are going to say like, oh, like they have Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Max Clare, like how is Indiana going to stop them? But I'm telling you, Indiana has some dogs on the defensive side. Aiden Fisher's good. Like they're all like pretty old too. They have like a pretty veteran defensive unit. Like I think that that'll work in their favor, to be honest with you. But this is going to be the best game of the year in terms of coaching and quality game. Like neither of these teams get penalized. Neither of these teams really turn the ball over. So it might come down to field position, right? Special teams, I think Indiana has the favor in. But I really think if there is one team to take down Ohio State, it is Indiana. Just because of the level of complementary football they play, the coaching, and then the aspect that you've talked about and I've talked about is, the close games because Indiana has played a few of them now. You can call the Oregon game not close, but it kind of was heading into that fourth quarter. Like they still had to, hang in there in order to pull that one out. And then obviously the crazy drive that Mendoza put together to beat Penn State was really important for this team to be in this game and have the ranking that they do. So I think that experience throughout the season is actually going to work in favor of the Hoosiers, not to mention that this will probably be a home game for them. And also, if you're Ohio State and you're coming off a national championship, like I don't know, motive is a crazy thing for me to speak on just as somebody that's just like has no say in either of these locker rooms. But I would say Indiana probably cares a little bit more just because they haven't even been in this game in so many years. And Ohio State, has pretty much played in it, played either to get in it or played in it for so many years. But the result of this game really doesn't matter because they're both in the at-large picture. So I'm going to take Indiana. And it kind of hurts me to say this because given our history and where we went to school and all that, I just think that this game is going to work out better for the loser. And that probably makes no sense, but it's almost like you're playing with house money and maybe you learn some things about your team that you haven't learned so far because you really haven't lost. And especially for Ohio State, who hasn't really been in a dogfight yet, it allows you to patch some holes while still earning a bye, right? So you still, get healthy, have another week of practice. So it hurts me to say, but I think Indiana actually has what it takes to beat them. And I don't think it's necessarily like, by a good amount. I think this is easily within a 3-point game, 1-score game. But I will give them their credit, give them their flowers. I say that they beat them 23-21. I think it's very close. Don't think Ohio State gets blown out in any regard. But I think that I've said it, the experience in the close games actually works in their favor. And yeah, they win their first Big Ten championship. And I don't even know how long. Do they even have one? I think they do, but I don't even know what year it was. So
So gross. So
I as much as I hate them, I do have some respect for Signetti. Um, just from watching how bad that program was to
Mhm.
now watching how good they are is insane. And obviously, it all starts with him, but he's got a good, tremendous staff below him and some good players too. So if anyone's going to take down the Bucks, it's them.
Yeah, I mean, what he did with that program, Purdue needs a Signetti
And everybody needs a Signetti,
right
man.
now. Well, Penn State definitely needs a Signetti. So I mean, like we'll see. Yeah, I think a lot of what you said is true, and I brought this up when they played Michigan, the close game factor and stuff. I still predicted that game to not be very close, and it ended up not being very close. But you knew someone is gonna give them a run for your money. You don't win a national championship. You don't make it all the way through a season without a close game. And like I'm saying that like it's true. It could very well not be, and Ohio State could do it again, which they've done time and time again this year. But this is a different team than anyone they've played. Other than Texas, which was a 7 point game, also beginning of the year, so not much stock into that. But other than that, they've not really played a team like top 10 caliber, top 5 caliber. Now we're talking top 2 caliber. Like this is real deal football, one versus two, and I do think there is a little bit of, yeah, I guess you can say complacency that comes into play from either team. And I think Indiana's pissed about last year. I think there's also people that still don't take them seriously, even now. And, you can say what you want about the Big Ten schedule. Wins are wins, and dominant wins are dominant wins. And going on the road and winning in any conference is a difficult task. I mean, I say that sitting here as a Purdue and Auburn fan who can't get more than 7 wins. I barely make a bowl game combined. So, for me to bash anyone going 12-0 would be asinine. But with that being said, I have Ohio State winning this game. I do like your bold pick prediction of Indiana. I think that would be a crazy scenario. I'd love to see it. And I know if you watched, like, I knew that was coming because of our college football prediction. So you were going to make that pick regardless. And I think it's a good one to make. I made the pick on Texas beating Texas A&M. I think you could see a similar situation here. Obviously, Indiana better than a Texas team, but it's gonna be interesting. I have Ohio State winning 34-24, so I don't have it a close game, but that's not to say that the game won't be close. Like I think it's gonna
I
be a
see what you mean. Yep.
going to be a close game. I just think Ohio State, what I saw in that Michigan game, they know how to put the nail in the coffin. They know how to put it to bed. And I think they're going to do that against an Indiana team. And so this game may look a little bit different. It may be, 27-24, and then they just score. And that's why I've got them going over. So I think it's going to be a close game. I think Ohio State just puts the nail in the coffin, gets barely a double digit lead. And then we're in the conversation of where does Indiana fall, and let's go to playoffs, baby. Like let's do it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's also funny because I just feel like whenever like Ohio State just on a roller coaster. Like I feel like just as a team, as a program, right? And so, when people think that they're going to be like, oh, they're going to dominate Michigan. I know I'm saying this is like more as last year, like, oh, we're going to dominate Michigan, lose, right? And then everybody's like, fire Ryan Day, fire Ryan Day. They go and do that, right? So now this year they beat Michigan pretty well, pretty handily, and then we're at the top, and then now they lose this game. They're like, oh shoot, are they fraudulent? And then we go back up to the national championship stage. I
that's
just think that that's how this team is. It's how Ryan Day's teams go, but it's not necessarily like a bad thing.
I think that's a really interesting point actually you bring up that I haven't really thought about is what happens next after you beat Michigan because we've never seen them really do it. So what now? Like is it
Yeah,
have they climbed their mountaintop? Is that their like peak of like we can finally breathe? This is what we've been waiting to get back to all year. But now you've got somebody even better just coming. Like you've got to keep that level that you
right,
had.
right.
And that can be hard to do in an emotional rivalry game that you finally climb over that top and you're probably celebrating and getting hype with your boys. So
They have that little like stupid saying that Stroud used to say is like pressure is a privilege. Like, all right, yeah, like so now you got all the whole world with their eyes on you at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Can you put together, you know, a good 60 minutes with everybody thinking that you're going to, right? That's the next step for Ryan Day because, obviously he's, a national championship head coach. He's one of the best in the sport. It's just like, can you stay consistent in terms of winning and the outcome? So going to be glued to the television screen to this game. Um, I think it's just going to be the most quality of a chess match in terms of two coaching staffs that are among the best in the entire country. So I can see this game going both ways. And, to your point, to my point, whoever comes out, I'm not shocked.
Yeah, and it's probably good. We disagree on at least one of these, so we're tailing the same, and we've got a disagreement, but that's what makes it fun. It's
Yep.
on opposite sides, and anybody can win. It's Big Ten championship, SEC championship, Big 12 championship, and now we go into the fourth and final conference, which should probably be known as the Group of Five team this year, and we'll just substitute like the AAC or somebody. I don't know, but you've got. I can't believe I'm saying 7-5 Duke. How do you go 7-5 and you only have two conference losses? I don't know. But 7-5 Duke playing Virginia, who was has been our deep sea dog story the whole year, good and bad. And we've called frauds, we've called all types of names. But now, they're playing in the ACC championship while Miami's sitting up there ranked 12. This is just a really weird situation. The spread is 3.5. This game is also at 8 p.m. I will not be watching. I will
Nope.
be maybe checking my phone to see if doomsday scenario for the ACC happens. But yeah, let me hear your thoughts about.
Yeah, yeah, I'll talk for this. I'll talk for maybe 60 seconds about this game because I'm not even gonna open my phone for this game. Like, I do not care. Yeah, UVA story of this podcast, to be real, honestly. We faded them, we rode with them, and somehow, some way, they're in the ACC championship. Um, Chandler Morris, pretty decent quarterback, to be honest with you. Like, pretty quick release, like, stay on schedule, like everything you want out of your quarterback. Probably why they've had at least this many wins. They have a lot of close wins, which is interesting. Like, because if you know, UNC gets that 2 point conversion, like, are we still here? Um, go that just adds more to like the craziness of this matchup. But yeah, two horrible teams, and I don't think there's going to be any defense played in this game. I forget what the matchup ended up being the first time they met, but I'm pretty sure.
34-17. It was
Yeah, but that was 31-3 after three quarters in favor of UVA. Like, just baffling that Duke is in this game. Um, I don't think that they win this one, even though that would be one hell of a story. Maybe I should pick it just for the fun of having JMU and Tulane in the college football playoff. But I'll say UVA wins. I think that there's no defense played. I think it's 34-31. I think Duke makes it closer after their abysmal performance the first time around, but Virginia's ability to win close games and just being the outright better team in this game is enough to beat the incredibly bad Blue Devils, who lost to UConn. The Connecticut Huskies beat Duke, and NC State beat them in a non-conference game. Like, this is just so stupid that we're even talking about this. But
yeah.
it's a Power Four conference championship for
Hey,
whatever.
it's to earn a bid or to not earn a bid
Yeah,
somehow.
exactly. The
Every
fact that it might not, the fact that the ACC championship might not be a bid is just very embarrassing.
It's crazy, and fair play. UConn. I apparently I pissed off somebody in the comments the other week when we talked about UConn basketball, saying their football team is non-existent. They beat Duke, which is now in a championship game, so not non-existent. I also think they were like 9-3 or something like that. They did pretty well, but yeah,
Yeah,
dude, I just don't know how this exists. And by the way, Tulane beat Duke, so maybe we should just go head to head and just say screw this game and just throw Tulane in there. Let's have three teams with no head coaches in the playoff: Tulane, James Madison, and Ole Miss. So you know what? Fuck it. Everybody gets in.
that's got to change, man. The fact that we're doing interim playoff coaches, are you serious?
Yeah, do these teams like care about the 12 team play? It doesn't. It baffles my mind. Your whole goal is to get to the playoffs. Now you have a chance to get to the playoffs, and then you just
You're
throw it all
gone.
away for some reason. I don't know, but I agree with you. This won't take very long. I have 23-23, and I just wrote ass next to it. So I think that means we're
Nobody's watching.
gonna win.
Nobody's watching. I don't know who's gonna win.
Oh,
Nobody's. I'm not gonna know who won this game until I watch the ranking reveal. I don't want to know. I don't care. I just no. We're not doing it.
that's
Just
great.
I just want to watch Fox. I want to watch my 1-2, my Big Ten, right? You know,
Hmm.
deservingly of my two eyes. None of that. None of that ACC garbage.
Yep.
Sorry to all our ACC people and
Apologies.
maybe some UVA fans from who watched us from the beginning. My dearest apologies. I hope you guys are in, but at large, you guys are making the sport look terrible.
Yeah, if you want another ranked conference championship, by the way, just tune in Friday, North Texas and Tulane. That is actually a ranked matchup, unlike the ACC championship. So if you
That's
want
a better game.
that's big. That's big money football right there. I mean, North Texas 2.5 point spread, 66.5 is the over. So you get to see a lot of points. You get to see some teams possibly fighting for both of their chances to get in. So, um, yeah, not
That'll
much
do
else
it.
to say about the ACC championship, but obviously Big Ten championship going on that time. And all jokes aside, it's going to be fun. Like conference championship weekend. This is what we're waiting for. Rivalry week was last week. Now we get conference championship. Then we get playoffs. This is like the pinnacle of everything. And it's fun as a football fan in general. It's just fun to watch these matchups go down. A lot of rematches, which makes it really fun as well. So I can't wait
Yeah.
for it. Let's do it.
No, yeah. I'm can't wait to get to this day. I love you and I talked about it. I love how they're separated because I felt like all year you're battling for springtime and your conference games and all that stuff, but conference championship weekend and the playoffs they're all separated, which I love. And so now you get to really focus in on a team that maybe you didn't get a lot of during the season. You get to watch all however many snaps, but can't wait, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, and then we'll learn the playoff picture. So can't wait.
We'll see you then.